Josh, I can send this to you too, and I know you're big on content, which is, you're another person that when everybody follows every one of the guest speakers, guys, I implore you guys to follow because it's just consistent education. This isn't the first time, you have to hear from Josh or you get to hear from Josh. You can follow him. And because he does social media the right way, which is what everybody in here is coached to do, you will consistently learn more about what Josh has to offer, what he does, what he's about, what his values are, how he can help you. So with that being said, Josh, I'll send you over this recording too, because I know you'll chop it up and make some really good content there. But listen, guys, I want to get this started here. First and foremost, everybody, it was great to see a lot of you at the Harvest Holiday Party. Thank you for those who donated toys. And I know Big Brian Walsh, he's doing a big toy drive, so we're going to contribute to that. I got a big event in Camden where we give over Christmas presents to over 200 kids. So that's going to be, to bless a lot of kids in Camden. So it was great seeing you guys last week. And I look forward to us all closing out the year strong, continuing to make our connections, continuing to lay the foundational work during this time. And as always, I just want to make sure I keep repeating in this season, please make sure to block out time with your family, with your friends. Like, make this a time where you just don't let the holidays and work just pass by, right? We do this to enjoy time and create moments, special moments with our family and friends. So please, this is a great time to work on the foundation, your systems and processes and all that stuff. But please make sure you're making time with your family, your friends, your kids, getting it on the calendar so you can max out the holiday season. Because we got some big plans heading into the new year. We're going to really drive our live events to get you guys in front of more people that can help you, that you could do business with and grow relationships with. So it's going to be an amazing year. And this call right now today is going to help us all be more prepared for the growth that we will all have heading into the new year. So our next guest speaker here, we brought him in, I don't know, maybe it was a year or over a year ago. He's a very good friend of mine, a very respected entrepreneur leader in the entrepreneurial space, like nationally, not just locally. But he's a great friend of mine. He was in speaking on leadership. He speaks on, stages, panels, you name it, speaks all over the place. And he's also an expert and coaches on and speaks and helps implementation for EOS. So I want to make sure that I don't bring in somebody that will just, this could be a very boring topic to a lot of people, right? And I know the importance of energy and making sure that we always have somebody that can kind of like bring you guys energy, keep you motivated, deliver it in the right way, but also has incredible experience with some big companies nationally to really give us all expert advice, because that's what the Harvest is about. That's why I bring in guest speakers, because there's a lot of shit that I cannot speak on. So I bring in people that can speak on it at a very high level so we can get the most value to you guys. But Josh, welcome again to the Harvest. It is great to have you this morning, as always, my friend. Man, so let everybody know a little bit about just a short version about kind of some of your background and also some of the things you have going on. I know you got a really cool podcast that people can listen and subscribe to. So just catch us up a little bit on that. And then we're going to go into, just to get you guys the best information, we're going to go straight to specific questions about EOS. And it's kind of going to be a Q&A with some powerful questions that will get you the most tactical advice. And then we're always going to leave it up to the room for some Q&A too. So write down your questions. There are no stupid questions ever. The only stupid thing is sitting on questions and never asking for help. That's the only stupid thing you could ever do, because you're stunning your growth. So Josh, good morning, man.
Morning, brother Devin. Hey, do y'all know that there is a chat GP Devin that exists? I found this out last night because we were going through questions and prepping for this call. And I asked him if he chat GPT'd it, and he said, no, I chat GP Devin it.
Yeah, he was like, you want to do some Q&A? And I was like, all right, cool. And then about a second later, I had like 10 questions lined up. He was like, did you just chat GPT that? I was like, that's chat GPT Devin, man.
So good. Well, I appreciate being back with all of you. Yeah, I think it was maybe a little bit more ago that I was on, and I gave a lot of you guys my story, my long story. So I came from a world of 20 years in the financial advisory world. I owned a very large firm, had 250 employees, 110 of which were advisors, 1099 advisors. So they're running their own businesses and own staff underneath me, and sold that 3 years ago at 41. So to give you more context, I've owned an Anytime Fitness franchise, sold my personal advisory book, and then sold the firm. So I've had 3 exits as an entrepreneur thus far. And I was getting recruited by everyone in the financial industry. At 41, we were running a highly successful firm. I'm young or youngish, and every time I took a meeting, I had this pit in my stomach that something wasn't right. I had a $2 million offer on the table from a company that's based out east by you guys, and I turned it down. I had a lot of prayer and reflection with God that he basically told me that I'd accomplished everything I set out to in that industry, and it was time to blaze a different trail. And so then I had to do some prayer and reflection on what that was. And I leaned into, okay, did a really fancy T chart. I drew a line down a piece of paper, said, hey, what did I love about my previous role? And on the right side, what did I hate? On the hate side was compliance, FINRA, SEC, narcissistic advisors, stuff like that. And I started asking myself the question, what if I could design a world where I just did the stuff that I loved? And so I leaned into coaching and speaking, developing and impacting people, and started building this out. So like Kevin or Devin, Kevin, I don't think I've said that ever, but Devin said, I coach and speak all over the country now, and it's been really rewarding to see the growth. I'll tell you this, EOS is not boring, because anything that helps you become your best at either business, leadership, personal development, I don't think it can be boring. Like, yeah, sure, there might be some tools or systems in there that you may not find enjoyment in, because I'm a 98% visionary. So I get that. I may not be down with the SOPs and all that stuff as well. That being said, if it makes my business better, if it makes my people better, if it makes me run more efficiently, that's not boring. So I'm excited to get into this topic with all you guys. When I got into coaching, I'll give you this one last backdrop. I started working with advisors and entrepreneurs all over the country, and I realized that all of us have two major problems and then 136 issues underneath those. And the two major ones, and they basically encapsulate all the 136 minor ones, are leadership or human development, and that's why you guys are here today. But then secondly is systems and processes that help us scale and grow. So my whole jam for 20 years was developing people, recruiting people, getting them really talented, taking them from whatever they were making to helping them become a millionaire. That's what I did. That being said, I ran my business underneath a Fortune 80 company that had all the systems and processes built out. For any of you that are entrepreneurs, you know that you build out systems and processes on your own. You know, quote unquote, I got a buddy that owns a company that is called FitFo. And the acronym is figure it the fuck out. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. We figure it the fuck out. We don't know exactly what we're doing. We have this issue that comes up today, or this fire that comes up today, and we put it out or we solve it. And so the systems and process side, I got acquainted with EOS when I ran the firm. My best advisor, who was bringing over 150 million a year and building out a really large team, says, Josh, read this book. And it's called Traction. And I read it. And then I read Rocket Fuel, which is the follow-up to it. And I went on a journey to start learning more about EOS. So I knew of the system. Then when I got into coaching, developing, and realized that entrepreneurs had that systems and process issue, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get certified in this, because I want it to be another tool in my tool belt to help the people that I lead and coach to become really proficient business owners and run their version of a best business. So with that backdrop, let's hit the question. So, the first one was EOS. What does that stand for? Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's an operating system that allows you as the entrepreneur to run your business in a really efficient manner. It helps with leadership, helps with accountability, and it allows you to become your best. So anytime we sit and meet with a team, and my first meeting with their leadership team, say it's you, the owner, and then your COO, your CFO, whatever the titles are, those key players in the room, I said, are we willing to become our best? And before you answer that question, because everyone was like, yeah, of course we're willing to become our best. Hold on. Let me define what best means. Are we willing to become our best, to become healthy and smart? Healthy from the standpoint that we're a cohesive, accountable, fun, and loving team. Smart meaning we get our egos out of the room and we work on what's most efficient. We work on what's right for the company, not for ourselves. And we figure out the best way to do things to serve our customers best. Are we willing to become a true leadership team? We're a team, not a group of individuals. We're a team that focuses on, again, what's right for the business, not what's right for ourselves. Are we willing to take responsibility for ourselves and for those that we lead? Are we willing to use one operating system? Because there are a myriad of operating systems out there, and I did the research, so I was familiar with EOS, like I told you, but there are other operating systems out there that you can use. EOS just happens to be the best one, in my opinion. And then are we willing to strengthen the 6 key components of the business? And we'll get into those.
So EOS, right? Is that the name of one specific system, or is it, hey, EOS is just, that's the name of systemizing your business and being more efficient, and there's a bunch of different versions of EOS? Is there only one version of EOS? Only one? Okay, all right.
There is one. That's a great question, Devin. There's one. There is a lot of copycats out there. Almost every other system I've seen has robbed from EOS. And people, it's interesting. I was working with a client just last week, and they had some consultant in that was helping them reorganize their org chart, if you will. And I asked them what they were doing, and I said, well, geez, that sounds a lot like EOS. So this person either has an EOS background or they've robbed how we go about building out an accountability chart.
Okay. So accountability chart. Now that you mentioned that, and again, guys, I want to like bring this right down to, the grassroots of this. So the basic, simple questions, because the reality is most people, like even that last question, most people don't know that. Right? Shit. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest student in the world, but like I'm a student on these calls just like you guys are. Right? So accountability chart. That's a great topic. Right? And for those of you that lead people, some of you may be sitting here right now like, what does that even mean? Like, raise your hand if you have an accountability chart for your company, right? So this is good for everybody to hear. Josh, can we go into that? Like, that's another topic that I would like for you to dig into. And then we can follow that up with, all right, what are the main pillars of an EOS system? Like, what exactly does this cover within your company, just so we can even make this more simple to understand?
Yeah, could you allow me to share my screen, Devin?
Hold up. Yep, I can do that. Hold on. Advanced.
Be easy for those on the computer to see exactly. So accountability chart, while he's doing that, it looks like an org chart, but how we go about setting it up is very, very different.
You are.
I'm live.
There we go. Perfect.
All right. So what we start out with when we go into these is when I'm sitting with a leadership team. So let's say I'm sitting with Ken, his leadership team. And I'm like, I need you guys for a minute to forget who the names in the organization. So every business has a few core functions, and then it becomes a little bit more unique. Okay. So the few core functions that every business has is a marketing sales department, an operations department, and a finance department. Or if it's a smaller company, it may just be a marketing and sales seat, an operations seat, and a finance seat. Okay. So again, before we go and add names to this, like let's say you have a CFO or a COO, or you have a chief marketing officer, or you have a sales guy. Forget the names. Okay. So what we're going to do is take these one at a time. And let's say, and marketing and sales, by the way, could be split into 2 seats. I have companies that have 3 different operation seats, right? So I work with this awesome Porsche company, and they started out building custom Porsches. And then now they have this race division they've won every major racing trophy in the world. So they have a race operations, they have a body shop operations, and they have I can't remember what their street, like, so anyone that needs their Porsche that they bought from the dealer come in from the street, they need it fixed or need it enhanced. So they have 3 different operation seats, and then there's a finance seat. I had a chief recruiting officer when I had the financial firm, so I had a different seat for that. But this is the basis, right? Every company has this. So then we're like, okay, so for the marketing and sales seat, leadership team, what are the 5 core roles that we need from someone in that seat? And so I have them for 5 minutes silently on their own. What do you expect from someone in that seat? What are their key functions? And then I whiteboard them. I list them all out. Okay, now that we've got these whiteboarded, what are the 5 key functions that you all agree on? And by the way, I'll give you the first one. The first one of all these seats, except for one, and I'll tell you that in a minute, is LMA. And that stands for leadership, lead, manage, and hold people accountable. Okay, so that encompasses a lot of what the roles would be, right? So then we can get more specific on the 4 other key roles of that seat. Now that we have the roles defined, now we can talk about who is the best person to sit in that seat. Now, let me give you some clarity real quick before we determine who. They have to GWC the seat. So another acronym, but GWC is really simple. Do they get it? Do they truly understand the role or seat that they're about to sit in? Do they get the job? Do they want it? Do they want the job? That's a key question. And do they have the capacity? And I'll explain that. Like, why wouldn't someone want a leadership role, or why wouldn't someone want to sit on this seat or on this bus, because that's one of the highest up seats? Well, I'll give you my brother as an example. He started his career at CDW, technology sales company. He was a great sales guy in the tech space. And they kept asking him to be a manager. Maybe some of you guys have been in this position. Well, the managerial role came with a lot more responsibility and less pay. So he's like, why would I want more stress and get paid less just to hopefully climb this corporate ladder? I'm just going to continue doing my sales thing until it's not a fit anymore. So he didn't want that seat. Okay, so one, it's really important. And then capacity, do they have the brains? Do they have the kind of operational knowledge of being able to do that seat? So they have to GWC the seat, and we do live time feedback. So in that room, if someone's sitting in that room and Ken's like, oh, Charlie over here, he's our marketing and sales guy. Okay, so we do live time feedback. Does everyone agree that Charlie fits our core values and GWC's the role? Okay, so then we go on and do the operations, then we do the finance, and then I discuss, are there any other seats on this leadership level, marketing, sales, operations, finance? Like, I had a chief recruiting officer. That's a seat that I added. Is there anyone else, like, for your unique structure, do we create any other boxes, any other seats? If the answer is no, we move up to the visionary integrator. Quick raise of hands. Has anyone heard of visionary integrator language? No, Devin, you have. All right, let me explain. I'll explain using an example. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. Everyone heard of those 2 guys? For sure you've heard of Steve Jobs. The reason Steve Jobs was fired initially from Apple is because most people called him an asshole. Why was he an asshole? Well, you could say that was part of his personality, but in all reality, in the business, he was trying to play both of these roles. Visionaries are not great managers. They're not great at holding people accountable. They are great leaders. They are great visionary people. They come up with the big ideas. They solve big problems. They're great at big relationships and bringing big accounts in. But they are not great managers. And how can I tell you that? Because I am one. There's a free test you can take on rocketfuel.com, free assessment, we'll call it that. And you can tell, are you visionary or are you integrator? About 11% of us are visionary. less than 7% of us are integrators. And there are these strange unicorns out there that represent like less than 0.5% of society that are both visionary integrator. Now, if you're a small business, you may have to play both roles at first. And I am competent in managing and holding people accountable, but that is not my God-given abilities. So the visionary is typically the owner, but sometimes the owner is the integrator and they lack vision and they need to bring in a president or someone that has those visionary capabilities to drive the business forward. Majority of the time, what I see is I run into a visionary that sucks at being an integrator. There's just more of us in the entrepreneurial space. There's more visionaries than there are integrators. But the integrators, so you'll see that, remember how I said there's only one role that does an LMA? That's the visionary. The integrator is the one that's holding everyone accountable, that's managing the marketing and sales seat, the operations seat, the finance seat, and any other seat you may have. So going down from that, if you have a larger company, then it starts to look like this, right? A traditional org chart, except again, it's an accountability chart because we're creating what are the specific roles. And by the way, when you go to hire someone, let's say you don't have someone over here in this seat, but you need someone there, and now you have the revenue to do it, you already have the roles clearly defined. So that makes your job search clearly defined. And that makes your interview process clearly defined. So the accountability charts helps on many more levels. It stops with, it's a reporting structure, but it's an accountability structure. These are the roles I'm going to hold you accountable to. You need to do these things great. And if that fits your bill, welcome to the organization. Oh, I forgot one thing. You have to fit the cultural values, which you guys all know. They got to fit your culture like a glove. And that's right people, right seats. And I know that's one of Devin's questions, so we can get into that in a little bit. But any questions on the accountability chart before we move on?
I can't see anybody because we're on screen share. There we go. Everybody good? All right, cool. So everybody understands. Everybody's going to have an accountability chart, whether you run a sales team in a company or you're the company owner. At least you guys all know that. And just make sure heading into the new year, I would advise you have something like that and share it within the community so you can say that you're executing on the information that you're getting today. Right. All right. Josh, real quick, when you mention these seats, right? Another, you hear it a lot, man, I need to hire somebody, need to hire somebody, need to hire somebody. Um, so then people hire somebody and then their onboarding is horrific, right? And then they wonder, it's just a common thing. Oh man, I can't find the right person. I hire them and then they're gone. I hire them and then they're gone. And a lot of times, not all the time, it's because their onboarding process isn't up to par. There's a lot of uncertainty. Nothing's really clear. The training is nowhere near as good as it needs to be. And if they were onboarded that way in another company, they would have probably been gone in a week too. So with EOS, right? And I share this with everybody like, look, when you learn this stuff, there you got two options. You can either try and do it yourself, which we all know most people will not do it themselves or say that they will and they still won't. Or you can hire a company to come in here and if you're serious, actually help you implement and execute it. So when you have these roles with somebody who hires an EOS company, right? Did they help with defining the roles? Just so I'm clear too on like exactly what comes with a company who helps you implement this, because the answers to this, well, then maybe you're like, wow, they actually helped me make job descriptions. Wow, they actually helped me create like onboarding. Is that part of this process? Just so I know too.
Yeah, so kind of. It's a mixture of the two because here's the deal. Most people, it's interesting. This question almost always comes up. They'll be like, "Hey, Josh, have you worked with a company in this industry, or have you dealt with this situation?" And the answer or the question behind the question is, well, most people think their companies, their businesses are so special that how is this going to apply to our world? And so this system was built agnostic. There's 900 implementers across the world. They've worked in every industry you can imagine. Like, and EOS is one of the most giving companies, platforms I've ever seen. So there is infinite knowledge that you can go and get about EOS, from EOS's website to all the tutorials. This is actually perfect timing. If you guys follow me on YouTube, I just recorded a video yesterday that'll go live next week. I'm going to do a 6-week series breaking out EOS on this. I think my YouTube, the new one we just started, is just at Josh Kosnick. But I'm going to break this down even further. I'm going to be on a whiteboard. Let me give you a backdrop too. I tried to self-implement when I had the big financial firm because I thought I had the capacity. I went and hired an integrator. I did 6 months of interviewing and her and I getting to know each other to make sure that we were the right fit and she was the right person. And she was. That being said, now that I've been trained on it, I can confidently say that I got about 20% of it right, maybe. So, and then what I found out when I got trained on it appropriately is that it's 10% knowing the tools, it's 90% implementing them correctly and diving deeper on them. So, to answer your question more specifically, yes, we help with all of that, but it's really navigating the conversation because Jason, Anthony, Marissa, like you guys know your businesses far better than I do and the intricacies of your business. I facilitate an environment that helps you come up with the best job description. I facilitate, and I have infinite examples of companies. Like if you're stuck on, well, what should my 10-year vision be, or what should the accountability chart look like, or what should an SOP look like for this department in this industry? Like I have examples, but what I'm going to do is facilitate a brainstorming session to leverage the brain power in that room with you and your leadership team to come up with what does the best job description look like, what does the best onboarding experience look like, what does the best training and development process look like. So I'm going to leverage you guys' brain power because you'll know your businesses and the intricacies of your business far better than I do, unless you happen to own and run a financial advisory firm. Then I might know it better than you. But other than that, you guys are going to know your business better than I. So I'm going to facilitate the opportunity. And yes, we have examples if we get stuck to use the brain power in the room to come up with those best systems and processes.
Awesome. So the answer is they will help you create systems, processes for onboarding new hires. And to piggyback off that, through this process and through your experience too, another thing is like, hiring the right people. What were some of the filters or what some strategies that you find really help people narrow down to where the success rate is just a little bit higher, actually hiring the right person versus, man, I can never get it right. Like, that's a big thing too, to where people just hire out of like fear. They just need it. Whatever, I'll figure it out, right? What were some of the best practices that you found, and maybe with the help of this system, helped you identify bringing the right people on board?
Yeah. So most people hire too fast. And what I would say is because you're desperate, right? I get it. You're looking for someone, you're trying to fill a seat, you're running, full steam ahead. The problem with that is you end up hiring the wrong person, and then you end up having to fire them, and you're in the start. You just repeat that cycle till you find the right one. So it's slowing it down. It's figuring out what, like, culturally, are they going to fit? Asking a lot of interview questions that help identify, do they fit the core values of our business, right? For me, I want people that are, no matter what business I ran, is that they have some sort of resiliency and they have some sort of accountability internally. Because I want to let you guys in on a little secret. There is no one outside of yourself that can hold you accountable. You are the only one that can hold you accountable. Now, groups like this, EOS as a system, me creating a mastermind or a study group internally in my own offices, that helps create an environment to help hold you accountable. But at the end of the day, if I got an individual that says, fuck it, I'm not doing any of that, I'm not, they're not going to hold themselves, like, no one can make you do something except for you. So I want to ask questions around, hey, let's say they work for Devin. Hey, your old boss, Devin. Tell me about a time that you guys were at odds and how you dealt with that situation. And what I'm looking for there is responsibility. Like, do they pass the buck? It was always Devin's fault. It was always external circumstances' fault, or are they saying, you know what, I screwed this up. We got at odds. My ego got in the way, and his ego got in the way, and eventually we just got sideways and we couldn't work together anymore. Okay, all right. Now we got something to work with. They're owning their shit, right? So we're asking questions that dig in on core values. You ask questions that dig in on competency. Perhaps you do a ride along if you're in the construction space and like, hey, show me what you would do in this situation. Show me how you've worked through this project, right? I always like to take people to lunch and understand how they treat people that can do nothing for them, how they treat the server. I love to, like, if I had a recruit in the financial world and Devin was running one of his in-person events for you guys, I would love to bring them to that and see how they interact with people in the room. Because one of the questions my dad always taught me in a final, like, could you imagine this person sitting with your top client at a private dinner with you not at the table?
That's a powerful question right there. Representing you, representing your company. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of this is, and then the other piece when we talked about the accountability chart, when we get those roles nailed for those seats, you're uber clear on who you're looking for. Now you can use assessments, stuff like that, for hiring. Like we used Culture Index was one of our preliminaries because we had just a handful, like four-ish profiles that we were looking for top advisors, top salespeople. And then when we were looking for administrative, we kind of had the opposite profile that we were looking for. That doesn't mean there weren't unicorns, but it's about odds of finding that right person.
All right, all right. And guys, remember, if you have any specific questions, feel free to raise your hand. I have some teed up that I know are going to be delivering some great information for you guys. um, Here goes the next one. How, all right, here we go. How can I use EOS to identify what's holding my company back? Give me some examples when a company ran through this. Like, where are some of the opportunities throughout this process where you're like, you know, this is how you can, and this is a common thing when I ran companies through this, that they identified that this was holding me back. Do you understand that question?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few different answers here, Devin, because one of the areas that we focus on is getting the right things measured, the right data, right? So we utilize a scorecard. You guys may have some form of KPIs that you guys track, key performance indicators. Whatever metrics or measurables that you utilize, we want to make sure they're the right ones. So oftentimes we find ourselves running enthusiastically in the wrong direction. And it happens to the best of us. So here's the example I like to give as it pertains to the scorecard. If I can see Jason here on the screen. So if Jason gets to take a vacation and he's on this island, but he has no access to his, like there's no cell service, he can't check, there's no Wi-Fi, can't check his email, can't check his phone, can't phone back to the office. That being said, a cabana boy or cabana girl is going to bring you your margarita, pina colada, whatever your favorite drink is, and a napkin. And on that napkin are going to be written key metrics. And they're all the metrics Jason needs to know for how business is operating so he can sit at peace on that island and actually enjoy his time without stressing the frick out about what's going on back at the office. What needs to be on that napkin for Jason to feel comfortable, to know that everything's handled at home and I can relax? It's a great exercise to think about as to like a start of what should be on your scorecard, what should be tracked. Like it's just what matters. And by the way, there should be only 5 to no more than 15 measurables that you track as a leadership team. In EOS, we always preach less is more. Oftentimes, us as businesses, we like to over complexify instead of oversimplify. And a lot of times that can lead us astray. Is like, are we dumbing this down enough? Are we simplifying this enough? Should be a question that we ask ourselves often in business. So that's one way. Um, Another way where business are getting off track is we all have issues. Anyone that thinks that their business doesn't have issues, you're probably in the wrong room. You're probably a little bit too egotistical for your britches, because it doesn't matter how experienced you get, doesn't matter the best companies that I'm working with, they all have an issues list. Now, what's key about them is they have a list that resides in a digital document or a physical document. It's no longer in the leaders' heads. When it's in the leaders' heads, we're just running from fire to fire and putting out the fire that's burning the hottest or whatever needs to be done the most. So the issues list gets the issues out of the leaders' heads onto a piece of paper and or on a digital document. We got a great software for it. It's like $13 per month per user. It's awesome. And so it's really inexpensive and it keeps it there. And so in your leadership meetings, we call them the L10 meetings, and I can always go through that agenda, Devin, as well, because I think it's one of the best leadership meeting agendas ever created. In that meeting, we identify what are the top priorities that need to be solved right now. We rank them 1, 2, and 3, and then we discuss the first one, and we're looking for discussion that leads us to the root cause, not the symptoms of the issue. Because when we solve this issue, we teach teams to solve this issue so that it goes away permanently. Because one of the most frustrating things as a business owner is that issues keep reoccurring. They keep coming back. And part of that problem is we solve the symptom, or we just put out that minute fire for that customer, and we didn't actually solve the root issue. It could be a people issue, could be a process issue, could be a vendor issue. But like, we didn't solve it at the root cause. So we're teaching leadership teams to get better and better and better at solving issues so that they go away forever. But issues in and of themselves will always pop up. But that issue we discussed last week, we're never going to see that again because we solved it. And so that's the issues list, and getting that residing somewhere, and then having a high functioning leadership team that gets really good at solving issues as they arise. That's one of the key things for sure.
I just want to give you guys two examples because there's, a lot of our businesses in here are smaller businesses, let's just say 20 plus or under employees. And then we have some solopreneurs on here too. And then we have people who are just highly effective salespeople in organizations, right? They're just very good at what they do. So I want to talk about why, like systems and processes, wherever you're at in whatever stage in your life, why this is an important and compelling call to you, right? Because at the end of the day, if you want to make more money, you got to do it through systems, processes, or people. And the only way that you add more support is by having a system and process to help you make more money and be way more efficient and have more freedom. So back to Josh's point when he was talking about being away on vacation, a good friend of mine and a mentor, we recently talked a few weeks ago, and he is in the process of selling his company to private equity for a lot of money. And I was like, man, like how powerful question right here. I was like, how long do you have to be on board with that company for it to help them, or with whoever buys it, like whatever private equity firm or whatever? And he was like, dude, he's like, I've been out of that business forever. Because of what? Because he has effective systems and processes and leaders in place where he can go on vacation for a month and that business is still growing. That is freedom. That's a real business owner, right? And we've had plenty of speakers on here that said this line. Most people think they're business owners. They're actually glorified employees. And that's a hard truth, a hard pill to swallow. But it is the truth. If you cannot leave and your company still grows and makes more money and still running efficient, right? So when Josh says, do you have issues? Like if your company runs, you got issues, right? Unless you want to be in the business and not, you have problems that you need to solve. There's work that needs to be done. And we're not even talking about a company who's doing some real major numbers. We're talking about being a successful small business. Now that all depends on what your goals are. But that's just an example of how powerful and what this could look like for you if you take this seriously. Piggybacking off of Josh's example of being on vacation, the next thing for that solopreneur, I remember sitting in this mastermind, and there was this guy who actually was a speaker in here. His name is Jeff Hunter. Right now, he's very big in the AI space. And I remember the first mastermind I was in, he was talking about the reason why he left corporate America. And the reason why he did was he was in a specific position in a company and he leveraged virtual assistants, right? So he would get so much more done than anybody else. It was insane, to where the boss was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, how are you getting so much done? And he told them the model. He was like, look, I have virtual assistants do this because so I can be way more effective, way more efficient, get more done, and I can leave my day and I do more than anybody else in a day, right? And corporate America, pretty much the owner of that company or leadership came down on him and made it a bad thing. And he was like, I figured out ways through systems and processes and efficiency to do way more than anybody in this building and have way more free time. And this is how he treated me. And he left corporate America and started coaching and building automation, AI, all that stuff. So as a solopreneur, if you're a highly effective salesperson in an organization, well, guess what? You may need an assistant. Guess what? Maybe there's systems and processes to have some type of prospecting done. So the only calls that you're making are the ones who already raised their hand and said they want to talk to you versus having to call 100 people to get one person on the phone, right? Or maybe you're sitting there, man, you know, when I close a deal, I have to process all this. Like, it's a day putting in the paperwork. Well, maybe you need to hire an assistant to have them do all the stuff so you can 10x your income, because you're going to stay like what Josh did, stay within his superpower, what you actually love doing. But the only way that you can do that is to value making systems and processes and learning the stuff that you're learning on this call right now so you can 10x your income and also create a life by design to actually have freedom. That's only done through what we're learning. So it doesn't matter where you're at in life. This is efficient and this is effective and this is relevant to you right now if you're trying to make more money, live more efficiently, and live a better quality of life, if that makes sense for everybody. I always like to bring it home, Josh, because I feel like sometimes it's very easy for people to be, well, I don't have a 50 plus employee company, so why is this relevant to me? It is relevant to you, and this is why. So I just want to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I love that. All that was great stuff. And it made me think of, I didn't tell you a key part of this because it's kind of EOS 2.0, but your job as the owner is to fire yourself from each of these seats. So right now, I have a small business. I went from 250 people to 3 people right now. We have 3. I'm the visionary. Alicia's the integrator. I also sit in the sales seat. I have a director of marketing. Alicia sits in operations and finance. My goal over the next year is to get her out of operations and finance into just integrator, and also me out of the sales seat and into just visionary. To Devin's example of that person that's selling a PE, what he did for himself, there's a box that we didn't draw here because it's EOS 2.0, but let's say there's a box that exists up over here. That's called the owner's box. That means what Devin's first example that he was saying, that what that guy did was he got himself to Robert Kraft mode. He installed and trained and developed a great visionary and integrator and has this team. So this leadership team is running the whole show, and this guy gets to sit over here and collect checks. That's the owner's box. So just like Robert Kraft utilized Bill Belichick to run the show and then get his DC and OC and all those people in there, very, very analogous. The egotistical leader wants to hang on to everything. The smart leader gets really talented and even smarter than him or her people in these seats so that they can do what they're best and eventually get to this owner's box where they get to collect checks and or sell or exit the company while he knows his or her company and business and team are highly skilled and can run with that for the next 20-30 years.
Awesome. Also, one other point too that I didn't want it to just pass us by, and I know you guys, a lot of you heard about this, and we still have people who recently joined, but he did mention a lot core values and vision, right? A lot of you heard either me talk or past guest speakers talk about how important the mission and vision of your company is and the core values. Um, The reality is a lot of you don't have that in place. A lot of you aren't evangelical with it. A lot of you don't have it on your walls. Your company don't know it, right? Josh, can you share the importance of how that can also make your company work way more efficient? And also, quite frankly, if you market what your values are, it can bring you in more business too.
Yeah, let me show you the 6 key components because we kind of skipped past that, got into questions, and it's really important to note these. Get to that slide. So to Devin's point, your business here is at the center of everything. Vision's at the top. You need to know where you're going first and foremost, and then your people need to know where you're going. And the traction part of that is getting them all on the same page. I tell my leadership teams this often. I don't care what your title is, CEO, COO, whatever fancy titles you want to give yourselves. Your real title is CRO, Chief Reminding Officer. All leaders need to be reminders. There's this study done in the 1970s called Parenting Effectiveness Techniques, PET. And what they found through it is that us parents have to repeat themselves 7 times for our kids to hear themselves or hear it the first time.
Amen. Amen, dude.
Okay.
That's what I'm
But
talking
oh, Devin, hold on. This gets worse. They redid the study. I think it was about a decade ago. Guess how many times we have to repeat ourselves nowadays?
about. I don't even know, dude.
35.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So that study, the reason we use it is it's not just kids, it's people. We have to repeat ourselves so often. So it can't just be your core values on the walls. It can't just be your vision on the wall. It has to be lived and embodied every single day. You have to train through your core values. You have to train through your vision. This is why we're doing it this way. This is where we're going. Right. So I love, like, if you do a quarterly, if any of you are doing a really good job of doing quarterly meetups or quarterly training and developments with your people, quarterly team builders, whatever it may be, always start a conversation like this when you talk about vision. It's a great framework. Here's where we've been. Here's where we're at. And here's where we're going. Because your vision as a leader, this comes from one of Devin and I's great mentors, Ed Milet, who I recently found out stole it from someone else. But either way, it's great. Your vision has to be big enough so that everyone underneath you can fit their vision inside of yours. So just keep that in mind. Your vision has to be repeated often, and it also has to be big enough that all your people can fit their visions inside of that vision.
Can I add something to that, Josh? And
Yeah.
this has everything to do with when we talk about social media content in general. There's one part of that where you've been that is very powerful for your people to know. And listen, when you're the owner of the company, it's very easy, right, to have your people be jealous of what all he does or she does, sit back and collect. Like, it's always like where you're at now, they're judging you, right? And sometimes it works for your benefit, but sometimes they build up this story, it's like, and then you get the media, well, successful people rob, steal, and cheat from other. Who knows what story they're drumming up in their head? And their audience, your followers are drumming up about you. But there's something so powerful in sharing where you've been, what it took to get where you're at now. When you grinded it out, working 3 jobs, delivering door hangers door to door in the wintertime, when when you went bankrupt, like, we all know how compelled we get. That's the most powerful part when we hear these guest speakers, right? It's not about, I saw a $10 billion company. We love hearing about the struggle, what they overcame, their story. And your people need to hear that more often too, so they ride or die for you more than you ever had them. Because most of you never told your people where your grassroots were, what your struggle, what it took for you to build the company that employs them right now. So that, I don't want you guys to miss that bin part, man, should be in your story, should be in your content, and obviously based on this topic, should be shared and discussed with your people and your new hires, because we all know just as much as you respect that, your employees will respect that also and be motivated and inspired by what you had to do to grow this company that now helps them make money.
100%.
Hey guys.
Hey, do you want me to get to process of EOS? I know that was a how
Yeah.
it looks like to implement.
Yep.
All
Perfect.
right.
Yep. We got 8 minutes, so we can rip through that. I know we've already asked you guys if you have questions. If you're too shy, whatever, hit me up in the chat. But if you have anything, hit me up. In the meantime, Josh is going to run through the process of this.
Yeah, so an onboarding process, if you guys are interested in working with the EOS implementer, whether it be me or if you want a referral to someone by you, whatever it may be, we always start with a 90-minute, I call it a workshop because 90-minute meeting just frankly sounds awful. But anyhow, it gives you the movie version of the book Traction. It's always a free meeting. I typically ask you and your leadership team or whoever you deem important to be in that room. And we work through the book Traction. A lot of what we give you the overview of the process, the history, stuff of that nature, give you the movie version of the book Traction. So, of course, you're going to get the book Traction. Everyone should read it, but this gives you the movie version, and it's free. No matter who it is, the 90-minute workshop's always free. If you choose to move forward and say, yep, we want to implement EOS into our business, we go into a focus day. All of these days, by the way, are 6 to 8 hours. We're getting you out of your business to work on your business. And so it's typically quarterly, but the onboarding phase is like this. We got to get you these tools. We go through what it looks like hitting the ceiling as a leadership team, accountability chart, set our first set of rocks, go through how to run effective meetings and start building a scorecard. Then we go wait 30 days so that you can start implementing some of those tools, get back together 30 days later, do vision building day 1, 30 days, vision building day 2. Every then after is just a quarterly meeting with a 2-day annual planning session. EOS is not meant for someone like me to be in your business forever. We typically say it's about a 2-year engagement for us to fully train you on the system. Some teams do it slower, some teams faster. But our job isn't to create a permanent spot on your payroll. It's to coach you to efficiency and effectiveness in running this tool, in this system. And so then at the end of 2 years or so, you determine if you want or need us in those quarterlies or in that annual. Some of my clients say, hey, Josh, we just want you to run the annual. Hey, Josh, or some are like, hey, Josh, we really like the third party in the room because sometimes we're too close to the forest to see the trees. So we're going to keep you on these quarterlies. Okay. And then some teams are like, hey, thank you so much. We got this. And I'm able to go, yep, I think you do got this. Run with it. Let me know if you ever need anything. And so, by the way, you pay for only 1 day at a time, just so you know. And by the way, EOS implementers always guarantee this, all of us. If you don't find value in that day, something just massively gets fucked up, that person was bad, which I haven't met one yet, but something goes wrong, you don't pay. It's always guaranteed.
That one statement too that you said about having that third party like come in. We had with my partners in my real estate company, one of the ideas I had was having a coach for us all. So us as all visionaries sitting in that room, like I feel like there's such an important thing of having an outsider come in and like hear us all and just have that, non-bias, like, look guys, this is what I think. Or, if there's 3 people in the room, look, I know that you guys don't want to say this, or, it's just having that other voice could really be a difference in your company.
I'll give you that person. If any of you heard my last talk a year, 14 months ago, whatever it was, I had an advisor on my team who was a leader on my team that was extremely narcissistic. So in my last business, I was forced to sell because this advisor sued me for discrimination unjustly, completely lied about me. The problem is that in 2021, with the political narrative and all that different stuff, the Fortune 80 company is like, yeah, we don't want that press. So we're terminating you to get ourselves, they didn't say this, but this is what it was. We're terminating you to get you out, to get ourselves out of this lawsuit. I often look back on that and go, had I had a third party in the room, a coach, an EOS implementer, some of that nature, because these problems were under the covers he had been a cancer in our culture for a while. Had I had someone in the room like me now, they would have pulled me aside and say, "Hey, Josh, you got a problem over here." Because my problem was I saw his lack of integrity, some of his stuff, as immaturity. And I had developed plenty of immature people into being functioning adults. So that was a little bit of my hubris. What they were character flaws in that individual. And I kept chalking up as immaturity. Had I had a third party in the room that was a good coach or someone of that nature, they would have pulled me aside. "Hey, Josh, you got a problem."
Yep.
Oftentimes we're way too close to the forest to see the trees on our problem.
Awesome. Well, this was super informative. Guys, we had the slides go through. We learned a little bit about, I mean, there's really nothing that we didn't hit on this call, and that's what our intentions are on these harvest calls. So, do you guys, we got 2 more minutes. Does anybody have any follow-up questions based off of what you heard? Yep.
Questions.
Yep.
Thanks, Josh, for your time and for imparting some of your knowledge on us. I'm grateful. I wanted to know, like, at what point, at what critical mass in your company is this optimized, like X and up number and
Yeah,
up? Does that make sense?
Good. Yeah, great question, Patrice. The target market, my marketing guy was just asking me this, is typically 5 to 500 employees. You have some sort of leadership team in place, whether it's you and one other person, that's the minimum. Now, can one person, solo owner, start implementing the system? Yes. Is it better with other brains in the room? Yes. So, and then revenue wise, it's as long as you can afford it. But like if I'm trying to create a marketing, I'm like, so it's going to cost you the minimum fee per day is $2,500. There's very few implementers charging that. And then you can get Gino Wickman, who is the inventor of it, for probably 30 grand a day. So like there's a wide disparity in there. So for instance, I charge 6,000 a day. So that's going to be, if you look at 4 to 5 days per year, a $30,000 to $50,000 investment. So your revenue has to be there. That's not going to suck up too much. Now, that being said, Patrice, every single company that we run these studies nationally every year that implements EOS sees a 34.4% year-over-year growth rate,
And then
which is a significant number.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's great. And then there's EOS 1, isn't there? Or so
EOS 1's a software. EOS 1's a software that keeps track of everything. Kind of like I was describing before, where you can have your issues list, you can run your level 10 meetings, you can have your accountability chart on there or something like that. But what you might be referencing is there is EOS resources where you can self-implement and you can pay EOS like a monthly fee. I think it's like $300 or $500, where you get access to everything, but you're choosing to self-implement without an implementer.
Guys, and just like anything else, whether you choose to do this whenever it is, or you want to sell, maybe you're telling yourself right now, it's like a goal heading into the new year. Josh mentioned this before, but this has everything to do with everything. Before you make that decision, even if you have the money, if you're like, man, I know that this is going to be good. One, understand, Josh said that to do this right, it's going to be 8 hours out of your day. So many people say they want to make a commitment and they really don't. Health and fitness. I want to do, I'm going to go a week later. They don't really have the all-in commitment to first and foremost say, look, not only do I know that this is going to help my business financially, I can do it, but the main question is, are you truly going to be mentally, spiritually, physically committed to putting in the time it's going to take to actually do this right and not be one of those, the 80-20 rule, man. It's like, I'm sure 80% of the people who paid to have this implemented, they personally half-assed it. They didn't do it once their consultant was gone. They went, but then you got the 20% that were, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right because that's my standard. I'm not going to half-ass it. And they're probably the ones that got the most success. So just like anything, if whether it's this or anything else, we have to mentally make that commitment to know, like, look, I will be away from my company. Like, this is not a, I get this is like, this is a necessity. Like Tony Robbins says, this is a must. This isn't like, oh, I gotta, like, if I'm trying to take my business here, I cannot have another year where I feel directionless. We talked about this on the Deep Roots call yesterday, right? And for some people, like, this is a must. And that's where you need to be, before you choose to make any investment in your health and fitness, in the harvest, in EOS, you have to make that commitment to, I will run the play. This is a must. I am fully committed, or else Tony Robbins can take you through the shit and you're just going to waste your money because you're not doing it the way that it's supposed to be done, or putting in the time that's supposed to be given to actually do it to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really well said. So anyone want add Josh Kosnick for any socials? I have great SEO because I haven't ever met another Josh Kosnick. That YouTube channel is up and running, but EOS specific content's going to start next week. Yeah, and reach out with any questions. Be happy to help any of you.
Awesome, guy. Hey, thank you for your commitment to yourself, for your business, for being on this call. While many other people made excuses on why to not learn stuff like this, you didn't, right? So that's a win to start today. Feel free to connect with Josh, drop in the community what you learned, share the call, because that adds value to Josh for coming in here and pouring into you guys. Appreciate you guys as always. Love you. Let's have an amazing day, and let's start laying the foundation in this season, man. Josh, thank you so much, my brother. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, D. It's great to see all of you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.